My name is Bilal Abdul Kareem for OGN. Today, we're going to discuss a very serious series of events which have been taking place since last night. Let's get started. Firstly, there was an attack by Syrian government troops on the compound of a French national, French-Senegalese national named Omar Diaby Omsen. And he lives there along with a group of other French fighters who fought in the civil war against Bashar al-Assad and their families. There was an attack there by government troops, and we're going to discuss why they did that, under which circumstances they did that, and try to debunk some of the things which are going around in the media so that you have a clearer picture in terms of what this is all about, what's been going on. Let's get started. Firstly, we're going to use as a backdrop Levant 24. This is a Syrian government English-speaking news outlet, and we're going to take some of the statements from their article so that you could get an idea in terms of what the government narrative is. It says, Idlib security forces surround compound to, quote, rescue kidnapped girl. Now, we're going to discuss exactly what that means or doesn't mean, and let's get started here. First of all, it says, quote, authorities have withdrawn, prioritizing civilian safety, because the Syrian government troops did withdraw from the area after, I would say, approximately 6 to 7 hours, maybe a little bit more, of shelling and heavy weapon attacks. We get back here. Quote, authorities have withdrawn, prioritizing civilian safety and allowing Diaby and his followers an opportunity to comply without violence. Quote, the goal is to bring Omar to justice and return the girl to her family, end quote. That's what the official told Levant 24. Now, we're going to use this as the backdrop, that the goal is to bring Omar to justice and return the girl to her family. Okay, let's take a look and see what that is. This is the little girl in question. Her name is Maymuna. And it says, on the 29th of September, the mother of 11-year-old Maymuna, Sarah, returned home from work to find her daughter missing, end quote. That is what was stated in the article. Okay, that is factually incorrect. How do I know that? Because I've had personal discussions with the mother, and that is not what the mother is saying. The mother said that she woke up one day, one morning, and Maymuna was gone from the house. It turns out what happened was Maymuna ran away from the house and went back to the camp, which is Omar Diaby, Omar Omsen's camp, where she lived for 7 years. Now, it's been very clear that there have been a lot of problems in the home between the mother and the daughter. Who's right, who's wrong, not my business. That's not what we're doing here. But the reality of the situation is that the 11-year-old girl ran away, and she was not abducted. She was not kidnapped. That is just factually incorrect. And it goes forward. Quote, security forces in northern Idlib carried out an operation Tuesday on a camp inhabited mainly by French nationals to rescue an 11-year-old girl reportedly held against her mother's wishes, end quote. Let's discuss that. It was reported that, and there was video evidence that heavy weapons were used in the attack on the compound by Syrian government troops. It was reported that a tank was there. They also used a drone, which was reported to have dropped explosive devices, and they used 23mm cannons. When you're trying to rescue an 11-year-old girl, who I need for people to understand where she is staying. She is staying at the house of the mother's ex-husband, who is a mahram for her. I'm not saying that that's a good thing that she's there or a bad thing. I'm just making clear everybody understands the nuances. So she's staying at the house of the mother's ex-husband and with her 2 siblings. because the mother had two children and they're with the father, and she went and was staying there with the ex-husband. Now, she went of her own accord. I personally heard the frantic messages where she was trying to get someone to come to pick her up because she didn't know the way back to the compound from her mother's house. Okay, so back to the story here. Now, if you're going to rescue an 11-year-old girl, you're risking killing her by bringing heavy weapons, a tank, and a 23mm cannon. These are just not consistent decisions made by the government to back up their claim that this was about an 11-year-old girl. It continues. Now, it says the Internal Security Directorate said the objective was to retrieve the girl safely and arrest Diaby, who is wanted for multiple violations. This is Omar Omsen, or Omar Diaby, he's also known as. And now, he did not surrender himself to authorities. We're going to talk about that in a second. But before we do, I want to look at this. This right here is called Risalat al-Shakwa ila Mahkamat al-Salkeen. This is a document from the court of Salkeen wherein the Sarah's ex-husband, whose name is Bilal, went to the court seemingly from the paperwork with the blessing of the father, who's in prison in France for the past 4 months, to get temporary custody of his two children, which is Maymuna and Ishaq. Now, I cannot independently verify the validity of that claim. I can't independently verify that. I did hear a conversation, or I should say a statement, an audio statement that was made allegedly by the father of Maymuna and the other child Ishaq, who lives with the mother Sarah, because I never met him, so I can't independently verify that. However, what I want you to look at is that these are the documents signed, and it was submitted to the court in Salkeen. Now, why is this significant? Because this is obviously a case of a civil matter, of a custody issue. There was no kidnapping. There was no threat to anyone's safety. Now, some people may say the daughter belongs with the mother, and you may have a very valid claim there. And some people may say that given the fact that through Maymuna's testimony, her mother broke her arm and was abusive to her, that she ran away to protect herself, all of that has to be taken into account, which is why competent authorities need to decide this issue and not 23mm cannons. My name is Bilal Abdul Kareem. Jazakumullah khair.